No one noticed the homeless boy until he spoke. The lunchroom at Lincoln Middle School buzzed with the careless noise of early afternoon. Plastic trays clattering, laughter bouncing off beige walls, the sharp smell of fries hanging in the air. It was the kind of place where stories began and ended unnoticed. Except this time, something different was about to happen. Jecintha sat alone at the far end of the table, peeling the wrapper off her sandwich with slow, careful fingers. She always ate slowly, as if she were afraid the food might disappear too quickly. Across from her, her milk carton sat unopened. She was saving it. For later. For someone else. That someone stood just outside the lunchroom doors. Kevin. He was thin in a way no child should be, bones sharp beneath a faded hoodie. Shoes 2 sizes too big and held together by fraying laces. He hovered near the trash cans, pretending to look for something dropped. But everyone knew why he was there. He had no lunch. Again. Some students whispered, others laughed. A few turned away, pretending they didn't see him at all. Benedict saw him immediately. Benedict always did. Tall, confident, with a grin that made people listen when he spoke, he leaned back in his chair and nudged the boy beside him. "Look," he said loudly enough for half the room to hear. "He's back, the hallway scavenger." A ripple of laughter followed. Kevin froze. His hands clenched inside his sleeves. For a moment, it looked like he might turn and run, but hunger held him there, heavy and humiliating. Jecintha's fingers stopped moving. She looked up slowly, her eyes finding Kevin's. Something passed between them, recognition maybe, or shared silence. She knew that look. She had worn it once herself, years ago, when her own family struggled and pride had tasted like dust. "Hey," Benedict called out, standing now. "This isn't a soup kitchen. You lost or something?" The laughter grew louder, sharper. Kevin's face burned. I wasn't..." His voice cracked. He swallowed hard and looked down. That's when Jecintha stood up. The scrape of her chair against the floor cut through the noise. Conversations faltered. Benedict turned, surprised. "What are you doing?" he asked, smirking. "Planning to donate a lecture?" Without saying a word, Jecintha picked up her tray and walked toward Kevin. Every step felt heavy, like she was crossing an invisible line no one dared to cross. Whispers followed her. "Don't," someone muttered. She stopped in front of Kevin and gently held out her sandwich and milk. "You can have mine," she said softly. "I'm not that hungry." The lunchroom fell silent. Kevin stared at the food as if it might vanish. I can't," he whispered. Before he could finish, Benedict laughed. "Wow, look at this," he said. "A hero moment. You trying to look good for everyone?" His words landed like stones. Jecintha felt heat rise to her face, but she didn't pull back. Instead, she placed the tray on the edge of the trash can. "Please," she said to Kevin, her voice steady. "Just eat." Kevin reached out with trembling hands, and in that moment, just as the first bite touched his lips, Benedict clapped slowly, mockingly, drawing every eye in the room. "Well," he said, "guess we know where you belong now." Jecintha didn't answer. But she felt it. The shock, the weight of humiliation settling into her chest, without knowing this single act would echo for the next 22 years. And none of them knew who Kevin would become. The silence that followed Jecintha's act of kindness didn't last long. By the next morning, it had transformed into something sharper. Whispers that followed her down hallways, laughter that stopped only when she turned around. What began as one moment in the lunchroom had now become a label she couldn't peel off. "Hey, charity girl," someone muttered as she passed her locker. Jecintha kept her eyes forward, fingers trembling as she spun the combination. She told herself it didn't matter. She told herself she had done the right thing. But words, once released, have a way of burrowing deep. Benedict made sure of that. He never touched her. Never shouted directly in front of teachers. He was smarter than that. Instead, he smiled when others laughed, raised his eyebrows when Kevin passed by, and said just enough to keep the story alive. She gave away her lunch, he'd say casually. Guess she thinks she's better than the rest of us. Kevin stopped coming to the lunchroom after that. Jecintha noticed immediately. For 3 days, she scanned the corners near the trash cans, the hallway by the vending machines, the benches outside. Nothing. On the 4th day, she found him behind the gym, sitting on the cold concrete with his knees pulled to his chest. You didn't come, she said gently. Kevin didn't look up. I shouldn't have, he replied. His voice was flat, older than it should have been. You got in trouble because of me. I didn't, she lied. Yes, you did. He finally met her eyes, and what she saw there hurt more than any insult thrown her way. Shame. Deep, practiced shame. People don't like it when someone like me reminds them of things they don't want to see. Jecintha sat beside him anyway. People are wrong, she said. Kevin gave a small, sad smile. They usually are. That was the last real conversation they had. A week later, Kevin was gone. No announcement, no explanation. One day he was there, the next his seat in class was empty. Someone said his family moved. Someone else said they were taken to a shelter in another state. No one knew for sure, and no one seemed to care. But Jecintha cared. She carried the weight of it quietly. Through middle school, through high school, through years when life demanded she grow up faster than she wanted. Her family struggled. Her father worked double shifts. Her mother's health faded slowly, painfully. Jecintha learned early how to sacrifice without applause. Still, the memory followed her. Every time she saw someone look away from another person's pain, she remembered Kevin's hands shaking as he reached for that sandwich. Every time she was tempted to stay silent, she remembered Benedict's laughter echoing in the lunchroom. Benedict, meanwhile, flourished. He became everything people applauded. Captain of teams, speaker at events, the kind of man teachers praised and classmates admired. By adulthood, his name carried weight, influence, respect, and Jecintha, she became invisible in a different way, reliable, hardworking, unnoticed. She took jobs that barely paid enough, gave more than she kept, and learned to swallow her own needs. Yet, late at night, when the world was quiet, she sometimes wondered, had that one small kindness helped Kevin, or hurt him? The question lingered like an old bruise, tender, unresolved, waiting for a truth she never imagined would one day return to her life. 22 years passed quietly, the way most life-changing things do, without warning, without ceremony. Jecintha now spent her days behind the front desk of a modest community center in a small American town, where everyone knew your face but rarely your story. The building smelled of old books, fresh coffee, and hope that had been stretched thin but never broken. It wasn't the life she once imagined, but it was honest work. She helped families fill out forms, guided teenagers toward after-school programs, and kept a donation jar near her desk that she often refilled with her own money. Some habits never leave you. That morning, she arrived early, as usual. As she unlocked the doors, she noticed a sleek black car parked across the street, out of place among the worn sedans and buses. A man stood beside it, dressed simply but neatly, scanning the building as if weighing a decision. She didn't recognize him. Inside, the day unfolded slowly. Around noon, a small crowd gathered in the main hall. The director whispered excitedly about a private donor who had funded new programs, job training, meal support, education grants. No name. Just a promise that everything was already paid for. Jecintha listened from behind her desk, confused. Donations like that didn't happen here, not without strings attached. Then the doors opened. The man from the street stepped inside. He walked with calm confidence, not the loud kind, but the kind that came from surviving storms. His eyes moved across the room, taking in faces, details, memories. When his gaze finally landed on Jecintha, something shifted. He stopped. For a moment, the noise of the room faded. Jecintha felt an unexpected tightness in her chest, as if she were standing on the edge of something familiar, but unnamed. The man approached slowly. Up close, she noticed the faint scar near his eyebrow, the steadiness in his eyes. "Excuse me," he said gently. "Do you work here?" "Yes," she replied. "How can I help you?" He studied her face, searching. "Your name?" he asked, almost cautiously. "It's Jecintha, right?" Her breath caught. "Yes, do I know you?" A small smile touched his lips, sad, grateful, restrained. "You did," he said. "A long time ago. You shared your lunch with me." The world tilted. Her mind raced back through years, through a lunchroom filled with laughter and cruelty, through a thin boy standing near a trash can. She looked at him again, really looked, and suddenly she saw it. The same eyes, the same quiet strength. "Kevin?" she whispered. He nodded. "I didn't know if you'd remember," he said, "but I never forgot." They sat later in her small office, the door closed, the sounds of the center humming outside. Kevin spoke carefully, not to impress, but to explain. After leaving town, his life had been hard, harder than most would ever know. Shelters, moving constantly, long nights where hunger felt endless. But that day, he said, his voice steady, that was the first time someone treated me like I mattered. He told her about the scholarships earned, the businesses built quietly, the success he never flaunted. About choosing to stay anonymous because gratitude didn't need applause. "I didn't come back for recognition," Kevin said. "I came back for you." Jecintha felt tears blur her vision, not from pain this time, but from a truth she never expected. The boy she once fed had grown into a man strong enough to change lives. And this was only the beginning. The announcement came on a Friday evening when the community center was packed. Families filled the folding chairs. Local leaders stood near the walls, whispering to one another. A banner hung above the stage reading Community Hope Night, though no one quite knew what to expect. Word had spread that the mysterious donor would finally speak. Jecintha stood near the back, her hands clasped tightly together. Since Kevin's return, her world had felt unreal, like a story unfolding too fast to catch up with. She still hadn't told anyone about their past. Kevin had asked her not to. "Let the truth speak for itself," he had said. Benedict sat in the front row. Time had been kind to him in the ways society usually rewards. He wore a tailored jacket, his posture confident, his smile polished. He was now a regional director for a development firm, invited as an honored guest, a man known for uplifting communities. When he spoke to people, they leaned in. The lights dimmed. The director stepped up to the microphone, voice trembling with excitement. "Tonight," she said, "we finally get to thank the individual who made all of this possible." A ripple of anticipation moved through the room. Kevin walked onto the stage. He didn't wear anything flashy. No expensive watch, no dramatic entrance, just quiet presence. Applause filled the hall anyway. Respectful, curious. Benedict clapped too, nodding approvingly, not yet recognizing the man in front of him. Kevin waited until the room settled. "I won't take much of your time," he began, "because this night isn't about me. It's about a moment that changed my life." The room grew still. 22 years ago, Kevin continued, I was a hungry kid standing in a school cafeteria. I didn't have much, no lunch, no confidence, no sense that I belonged. Jecintha's heart pounded. "There were people who laughed," he said calmly, "people who made sure I felt small. A few uneasy shifts in the audience. And there was one person," Kevin said, turning slowly, his eyes finding Jecintha in the back, "who stood up when it wasn't easy. She shared what little she had, knowing it might cost her." Murmurs spread. Kevin gestured gently. "That person is here tonight, Jecintha." All heads turned. Jecintha froze. Heat rushed to her face. She shook her head slightly, but Kevin only smiled, kind, encouraging. "She never knew what that kindness did," Kevin said. "But it followed me through every hard night. It reminded me that dignity isn't something you earn, it's something you're given. Benedict's smile faded. He stared between Kevin and Jecintha, confusion hardening into recognition. The memory hit him like cold water. The lunchroom, the laughter, the girl he dismissed. Kevin's voice remained steady. This center, these programs, this night, they exist because of her. Silence fell, heavy and unmistakable. For the first time in his life, Benedict couldn't look away. There was no spotlight on him now, no applause, just the quiet understanding of what had been revealed without accusation, without anger. Kevin stepped down from the stage and walked toward Jecintha. The room erupted, not in cheers, but in something deeper. Respect. Jecintha felt tears fall freely as she stood, not from embarrassment, but from release. The truth was finally out, and it had changed everything. The announcement came on a Friday evening when the community center was filled beyond capacity. Families squeezed into folding chairs. Volunteers lined the walls. Local leaders stood in pressed jackets, whispering about the anonymous donor who had transformed the building almost overnight. A banner stretched across the stage read Community Hope Night, but no one truly understood how much hope would be uncovered before the night was over. Jecintha stood near the back, her hands folded tightly in front of her. Since Kevin's return, her heart had lived in a quiet storm. He had asked her to let him speak when the time was right. She hadn't argued. Some truths deserved their own moment. In the front row sat Benedict. Time had favored him in obvious ways. His confidence filled space easily, his smile polished by years of being admired. He was now a respected figure in local development circles, invited to events like this as someone who gave back. When people noticed him, they nodded with approval. The lights dimmed. The director stepped onto the stage, her voice trembling. Tonight, we finally get to meet the person who believed in this community when few others did. Applause rose. Curious and eager, Kevin walked out. He wore a simple jacket, nothing that suggested status, but there was something unmissable about the way he carried himself. Steady, grounded, unafraid. Benedict clapped along with everyone else, still unaware. Kevin waited until the room grew quiet. I didn't come here to be celebrated, he began calmly. I came here because gratitude should be spoken out loud. The crowd leaned in. 22 years ago, Kevin said, I was a hungry kid standing near a school trash can. I didn't belong anywhere. Or so I was made to believe. A hush fell. There were people who laughed, he continued. People who made that moment harder than it needed to be. Benedict shifted in his seat. And there was one person, Kevin said, his eyes lifting toward the back of the room, who stood up when it cost her something. Murmurs spread like a slow wave. She shared her lunch with me. She didn't know my name. She didn't know my future. She just knew I was human. Kevin raised his hand gently. Her name is Jecintha. Every head turned. Jecintha felt her breath catch as faces looked at her with surprise, then recognition. She wanted to disappear, but Kevin's eyes held hers, steady and grateful. That single act, Kevin said, gave me dignity when I had none. It carried me through years of struggle. It reminded me who I could become. Benedict's face drained of color. Memory struck him hard. The laughter, the words, the moment he never thought mattered. Now it stood exposed, not with accusation, but with undeniable clarity. Kevin concluded softly, This community center exists because of her kindness. The silence that followed was powerful. Then applause rose, slow at first, then overwhelming. Not for Kevin, for Jecintha. She stood, tears streaming freely, as Kevin stepped down and joined her. The truth had surfaced, and nothing would ever look the same again. The applause eventually faded, but its echo stayed with Jecintha long after the chairs were folded and the lights dimmed. That night, the community center felt different, lighter, as if the walls themselves had learned how to breathe. People stopped Jecintha in the hallway, thanking her, hugging her, calling her brave. She smiled politely, still overwhelmed. All she could think about was how small her choice had felt back then, and how large it had become now. Outside, the air was cool and quiet. Kevin waited by the steps, hands in his pockets, watching the streetlights flicker on. When Jecintha joined him, neither spoke for a moment. Some words didn't need rushing. "I never meant for it to turn into all that," she finally said, her voice soft. Kevin smiled. "That's the thing about kindness," he replied. "It keeps growing even when no one is watching." Across the street, Benedict stood alone. He had left the hall early, applause still ringing in his ears, but not for him. For the first time in his life, he had been forced to sit with a memory he could no longer laugh away. The past hadn't returned to punish him loudly. It had simply stood up and told the truth. Later that week, Benedict came to the center quietly. No audience, no speeches. He asked to speak with Jecintha. "I was wrong," he said, eyes lowered. "No excuses. No explanations, just truth. I don't expect forgiveness, I just needed to say it." Jecintha listened, her heart steady. "What matters," she said gently, "is what you do next." He nodded, and for the first time his confidence wasn't loud, it was humbled. Life moved forward. Kevin funded scholarships, meal programs, and job training, but he never put his name on a wall. He insisted the focus remain on service, not status. Jecintha was promoted to program director, though she still kept a donation jar on her desk, still refilled it when no one noticed. Sometimes children came into the center hungry, unsure, standing near corners the way Kevin once had, and every time Jecintha saw them, she remembered. One evening, she and Kevin sat on a bench outside the building, watching families leave with full hands and hopeful faces. "Do you ever wonder," Jecintha asked quietly, "what would have happened if I stayed seated that day?" Kevin shook his head. "I don't," he said. "Because you didn't." Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness, but from understanding. The world didn't change because she was powerful. It changed because she was present, because she shared what she had when it mattered most. Kindness, she realized, is never wasted. It just waits. And somewhere, right now, someone is deciding whether to look away or to stand up. So let me ask you, if you knew one small act of kindness could change a life forever, would you still hesitate to give it? If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll past it. Like this video to honor the power of kindness, share it with someone who believes small actions don't matter. And subscribe for more life-changing stories that remind us what being human truly means. Most importantly, drop a comment below. Tell us, what's one small act of kindness you still remember, or wish someone had shown you? Your words might inspire someone else today.